Well, hello lovelies! Today I'm going to be doing the Artistro acrylic marker review that I mentioned quite a few times over the last few months. So you might remember, if you've been here a while, that I did the comparison between Artistro and Asani markers. I'm not going to go over the comparisons between them or anything that I talked about in the review that I already did, so if you want to see that, I'll link it in the description box below and the eye above. What I didn't do in that video was test on a wide range of materials, and so today we're going to use the Artistro markers on glass and ceramic as well as wood. And also, Artistro actually sent me a thank you present for making the review that I did. They're actually a small business, and I didn't know that. They're a family-run business, and they reached out to me on Instagram and offered to send me a thank you gift for making such a comprehensive review. So they sent me the upgraded 42 pen set, and let me tell you, the upgraded version is actually totally worth it. It comes with such a wide range of colors, and we'll talk more about that at the end of this video. Thank you so much, Artistro, for the thank you gift. These pens are amazing, and I really do appreciate them. Let's jump right into it. So I started off with the dollar store mug. You'll have seen that in the dollar store video if you watched it. And I was just playing around with the blendability of the markers. On the rock video that I made, they blended really pretty well. I mean, not as well as if you were doing tube acrylics, but I was surprised at the blendability of some of the markers. But on the ceramic, they are not mixable. It's kind of like you are just covering up one with the other. There's not a ton of blending. So I started off by just playing around with that, and then eventually I was like, all right, I'm going to have to do it in layers. And so I started off by just doing the basic brown center and then the yellow petals on the outside. Okay, so went ahead and finished off the color on this, and I'm going to try to get it to focus. It's having a hard time focusing tonight. But essentially, I'm new to acrylic markers, but what I've found so far is if you coat the tip of the marker with paint and then paint, the coverage is really nice. If it doesn't have enough paint on it, then you end up getting these lines, which I can't quite, oh, right there, see, you can see it. See those lines where it's not, the coverage isn't that great? That's because there's not enough paint on the tip of the pen. But it's really not that noticeable from far away. It's more of like a close-up thing. But I've tried to blend some different colors in here, and I'm going to give this time to dry, and then I'm going to try to add some line work on top of this to give it even more of a three-dimensional feel. I'm also going to finish adding in the dots in the center, just like I did here. Just going to do the whole thing with some nice patterns and dots. Using the acrylic markers took a really long time, probably because I'm just not used to them. I'm more used to using a paintbrush, which isn't as time consuming. But if you're not an artist and you're not used to holding a paintbrush or using paintbrushes, then I can see that this would be an easier transition to kind of play around with acrylics by using acrylic markers. You can also get fine lines and little details more easily with an acrylic marker than you can with a paintbrush, as using paintbrushes is a skill that you can develop over time, whereas most of us are pretty comfortable using pens and markers from a very young age. So as I said, I finished off the center with lots of little dots. This was very time consuming, but I wanted this mug to be something that I'm actually going to use in some photo shoots for my bus Instagram. And so I really took my time with it. I found that the acrylic marker takes a really long time to dry on the ceramics. This was not the case with the rocks that I did. Ceramic took a lot longer. And so I actually let it sit for the base color sit for a couple days before I did this next process where I started adding in more details. Started adding in a little bit more shading and line work and more dots in different colors that kind of brought the shading of the sunflower to life. Here I finished it off with some swirls and dots to kind of move the pattern along so it wasn't just the sunflower, it's kind of like a swoosh of color. And now I'm going to go ahead and let that sit, and eventually we'll be baking it, and I'll talk about that at the end of this video. Next, I wanted to try wood. I've actually seen a lot of wood burners use acrylic markers before, so I had a pretty good idea of how it was gonna look. However, I didn't realize how easy it was. I loved it. I still am gonna prefer to use watercolors just for their blendability, but I think I'm going to make a series of ornaments that are made with acrylic because the color vibrancy is beautiful. I was very, very surprised how vibrant the colors were, how great the metallic pen was for the stars. I just really enjoyed working on this. It was a lot of fun, and I definitely will use these markers on wood in the future for my own projects. The wood does, however, absorb a lot of pigment, so much like the watercolors, you're going to have to use quite a bit of pigment to seep into the wood. So I'll probably go through certain colors much quicker if I do this on my own personal projects, which is fine because the color vibrancy is still worth it. And of course, I love working with wood. That is my material of choice. You'll also see here I'm using a little fortune cookie wrapper as kind of a palette. So I don't know why I didn't just pull out a plastic palette. I think it was just because I was on the go and I didn't really think it through. But I used this plastic as kind of a dapper to dab the markers on in case they were running low on I want to say ink, but on acrylic paint. At the tip of the pen, I would just push the pen down a couple of times on a piece of plastic. The reason why I used plastic instead of paper was because the paper actually absorbs the paint, and so it actually sucks it right out of the marker, and it kind of defeats the purpose of dabbing it a couple times. So it's easier to use the plastic because then the paint builds up faster on the tip of the marker. Next up is the wine glass. So I wanted to do a wine glass with birch trees, and you'll notice I looked up references of what other people have done, and I will link those people's Etsy's in the description box below because this is not something I'm going to be painting for sale. So I did kind of pull some elements of other people's designs, and I modified it slightly. I combined 3 different images from 2 different Etsy sellers. And so mine does look different than theirs, but I just, for credit where credit is due, I pulled ideas from other artists. So those are linked in the description box below if you want to buy something similar for yourself. After I got the initial idea, I then went back to the source material. Like I said, I did modify it to fit my own needs. Their glasses were different than mine, and also there was a couple things I would rather do with my birch tree than that they didn't do. So I did still modify it, but so I went to the source material, which is what you should do. You should look at what other people are doing, not copy them, but go to the source material and make up your own design. But I did a little bit of both here. I copied a little bit, and I also pulled from a different design. But again, I am not selling this. It was just for fun and myself, and obviously this video. So just keep that in mind if you're looking for products to make yourself. I always try to push that you do not copy other people. You can kind of reuse ideas or get ideas off of other people, but always credit the original artists if you're doing so. It's super important to me to talk about authenticity in designs and in products that you sell. Guess that's just one of my pet peeves. So after adding in the black branches, I then shook up some greens and yellows to use for the leaves. And rather than draw a leaf shape, I decided to just do simple dots because I thought it would be faster. But holy cow, this turned out beautiful, and I love this glass, but this took so long. Hours. It took hours to do all those tiny little dots in many different colors and do the whole thing. So I actually do jump ahead a little bit at one point in this video because I was just using up so much SD card space just doing the same thing over and over again for like 2 hours straight. So I figured that would be repetitive and boring, and I don't necessarily need to show the entire process for this. Lastly, I finished off the very bottom of the trunk with black marks, And I added a few little random marks in here and there on the bottom to kind of make the roots pop. Artistro does provide you with instructions. So next I'm going to take the ceramic mug and the wine glass and go ahead and bake them. So that's what we're going to do next. I was really thankful that Artistro includes instructions in their boxes. I thought that was really nice of them because then you don't have to experiment on your own based on other bloggers' experiences. You have the rules right there for their own brand of marker, and you'll know that the process will work. And I just really appreciate the effort that they put into that. So now that our items have finished baking, I've got the finished wine glass here, and I'll get some close-ups of that as well. It did become a little bit more matte and less glossy after coming out of the oven, but it's baked on. I can rub my hand over it. It's not smudging or smearing or flaking or cracking. I have not tried to wash them yet. I'm probably going to wait to do that. It does say that you cannot run them in the dishwasher, that they stand up to light hand washing, which is understandable because anything that has like a surface like that where it's textured, you can just scrape it right off when you use a rough sponge. So light hand washing only. And then here is the finished mug. And this I'm going to be using on some photo shoots on the bus. I'm really happy with the outcome of the mug. I love it. Again, it did make it more matte and less shiny, which is totally fine with me. I did notice that the orangey yellow, and I'll get a close-up of this, the orange yellow dried more matte than the bright yellow did. So I don't know if that has to do with the pigments that they use, or how the color was applied, or maybe it was because it was the second layer of acrylic marker that I used. I'm not sure, because it didn't do that on the dots. It actually looks like specific colors have a shiny sheen to them and the other ones don't. So that's interesting. But I love it. I think it's perfect, and I just really like it. I love the wood. As I already said, I am definitely going to be using these markers on wood projects, specifically little ornament wood rounds. And the wood rounds are ones that I get from Amazon, so they're very easy for you to also get as well. I'll link them in the description box below. I will also link the smaller set as well as this larger set on Amazon if you would like to purchase it for yourself. The colors were super vibrant. I'm very happy with the final product. One thing I did want to mention is when I first opened the box, I thought there were a lot of caps that looked very close in color, and I thought there were a lot more duplicates than there actually were. But once you open the pens and shake them up and actually use them, the colors are very different of the ink. And if you hold the caps up to really good light, you can see the difference, but it isn't super recognizable. So if you're just, like, for example, these two, if you're just looking at them, they both look like the same light blue, but then if you look at the inks, they're very different. This one's more of a royal rich blue, light royal rich blue, and this one's more of a light teal. So they just have different ink in them, and even if the caps kind of look kind of similar when you first open the box. So definitely play around with them to see the real color of the marker itself. Lastly, I do appreciate that they did include duplicates of both white and black. That's really great. They obviously know that you're going to go through a lot of white and black, and so they included duplicates of each of those, and I really do appreciate that because I use a lot of white and a lot of black as well. So thank you again so much, Artistro. Thank you to everyone who's watching. I hope you found this review comprehensive and enjoyable. If you did appreciate this video, please do consider giving it a like. If you have any additional comments, please leave them in the description box, in the comment box below. I try to respond to everyone. Sometimes I don't always get notifications, so if I don't respond, I'm sorry. I probably didn't get a notification or see your comment, and I periodically go through some of my more popular videos to try to check the comment section to reply to people, which is why sometimes I reply a little bit late. But I do appreciate every single comment that I get on my channel. Thank you so much for engaging, and as always, a reminder to go head over to the community tab if you want to vote on which video to see next or on which content you want to see, whatever poll I'm currently running. I always have at least one poll running at every time, and it may just be about different subject matter. So go ahead and engage over on the community tab. That's your way to tell me what you like to see on this channel. that's all for today. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, remember to create, love, and travel on. Bye!